Greetings to everyone. As I was shortlisted to the second round in my placement journey to Face Prep, I was given a task to develop an application within the time limit of 6 hours, provided I can use any AI tool, considering explanation on where I was in charge. So, getting a brief, let's start with the brief intro of the project. Consider yourself in a situation where you're trying to solve a problem, any kind of problem, and you have a basic approach to it, which might be wrong. Now, other AI systems, they will either output the final solution or re-explain the entire textbook topic. Now, this creates an illusion like, yeah, you know the answer, just move forward. But here, you will provide with the problem, you will provide the application with your answer, and it tells you the mental model like what your logic is and in which step that logic leads to the wrong answer, and provide you with a correct mental model so that you can rewrite your logic so you can get to the correct answer. So let's just start with a brief demo. So let's consider this as a problem statement or a new one. You will paste the problem statement, you will paste your attempt on how you try to solve it. You can either paste the correct answer, or if you don't have the answer, just let the AI decide what is the correct answer and where you went wrong. So by the time it gives me the response, let me talk about where I took in charge in the development of this project. Initially, when I was discussing and brainstorming with Claude, like how the project architecture would be, how the system would be designed, what will be the UI design, like what all the development status will be like how the project will be deployed, and what will be the implementation plan. All was brainstormed and then processed to anti-gravity to fast forward the deployment and the development. So let's go with the answer this provided. Wrong turn. It will indicate and tell you where you went wrong, in which step you went wrong, why this happened. It will tell and explain where what your logic was and how that logic is wrong. It will give you an evidence based on the answer you provided, like yeah, this was the step which went wrong, which is wrong, you need to correct it. And it will provide a correct mental model, like it will try to correct your point of view towards the solution for that specific problem rather than just giving you the answer, which makes you understand the concept in depth. Then obviously it will give you a solution, a problem to solve next, to gain your more insights on that. So speaking of the things which I designed, was one was the database. What all data would be saved when the user is interacting with the system. The first table is users. When the system authenticates you using Google's authentication framework, it will save your email ID, username, picture URL, and the date and time you were logged in. And the other would be the diagnosis, the form which you fill and the output which the model derives, which it will be saved according to your user ID, respective to the user ID. That's why it's the foreign key for this table. What all it saves: the problem, wrong attempt, correct answer, and all the other details which you can use to traverse back to a different question and revise it again if you need to. So that's how the database was designed. And the issues which I tried to solve, where the AI was trying to do a mistake, where I took the steering wheel and I told like, no, this is the wrong path, do it like this. Issue number one, it told me to deploy the full stack project into two different origins. Like we have the backend and we have the front end. It recommended me to deploy the front end in Vercel and the backend in Google Cloud Run. Now this looks like a standard approach, but eventually it will lead out to a course error. cross origin resource sharing error, because the these two components should talk with each other, and when you're trying to process it in this manner, the browser, which has modern security policies, will throw out third party cookies error, like the third party cookie. Like if the backend is in Google Cloud Run, the front end becomes a third party for the backend. So the browser can't allow you to talk between two different origins until and unless specific conditions are met. Now I told AI to pack those containers, to wrap the backend and front end into a single container and deploy it to the cloud run, which resolves the course issue. Now, eventually, this is also not a scalable option, because imagine you have to try and you have to change something in the front end, which can go into redeploying the backend too when it's not necessary. So that's the issue which it's caused. And if I'm trying to scale up this project, I would deploy the backend and the front end separately as a container in the same Google Cloud Run, not in Vercel and in Google Cloud Run separately. Two containers running in the same project ID from GCP, which ensures you can update or edit one container at a time, and the service and the traffic is shared to the front end instead of going and damaging the backend too. The second point where I mentioned and corrected the AI during the development was the logging framework. Like I told the AI, do this add login framework, use the Google runs logs to determine how the backend is running. If I'm getting an error, what kind of error it was, how it can be resolved, we can get a brief idea on that, so that I am not sent out in a way like I don't know what happened in the backend and how can I solve it. Other thing was the rate limiting thing. Like if I am not using this rate limiting, any user can run a script to request the access to the model, which can drain out my pockets. So that's the issue number 3 which I resolved. Moving forward, the tech stack I used in front end is React, because React provides a single page application where you can use components. Consider this brain outline loader. You saw that animation when the loading page was there, right? When the model was determining the answer, it gave you a loading page. Now this works because of React. Instead of loading the entire screen again, I will just reload the specific component which needs to be updated. So this is a better approach, and given the time constraint, I went with these tech stacks. So that's it for today. I think so. Thank you guys.